Hello, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Thomas Rodriguez and this is my tutorial on how you can simulate a simple DDoS attack using Kali Linux. So here are the concepts that will be covered in this tutorial. First, I'll be going over what exactly is a DDoS attack. I'll be going over SYN flooding, which is the method that will be used to demonstrate the DDoS attack in Kali Linux, and then I'm going to be going over how to actually do it in Kali Linux, which will involve using the terminal to accomplish that. So exactly what is a DDoS attack? So it stands for Distributed Denial of Service Attack, and it's when an attacker floods the resources of a target server or network to make the server unusable. And this would violate availability, which is the A in the CIA triad. If you don't know, the CIA triad are the three fundamentals of cybersecurity: confidentiality, integrity, and availability or accessibility. And the hacker will do this for a lot of different reasons. Maybe to try and interrupt the activity in a specific website, and typically there are nefarious reasons for doing that. So the number of online devices needed for the DDoS attack to work depends on the bandwidth of the target. So basically you can see here that the attacker computers are the ones producing malicious traffic through the internet that will go to a target server, and the more attacker computers there are that try to flood a server, the more overwhelmed the server becomes until eventually they're out of resources. So however, if the target server has a lot of bandwidth, then it would take a lot of online devices for the hacker that the hacker needs to use in order for the DDoS attack to work and to completely overwhelm the target server. So basically it would depend on the bandwidth of the target. So now I'll be explaining single source SYN floods. It's a type of DDoS attack. It's the one that will be used for this tutorial. So it involves, so for normal operations, or basically how the packets work in your computer is that it involves the TCP handshake. So in the left, this computer right here would be the computer that the user has, and then this image on the right would be representative of the target server. So the user, in a normal case, like if the user wants to access a website or something, they would first need to send, the computer would send a SYN packet to the server, which is basically saying, hey, to the website, like, I want to use your services. And then the server, in response to that, will send a SYN-ACK request saying that they received the SYN packet and will want to establish an open connection between the computer, the user's computer, and the server. And then in response to that, the computer will send an ACK request or ACK packet to say that they received the SYN-ACK request or the SYN-ACK packet, and then an open connection is fully established between the user computer and the target server. However, with the SYN flood, it takes advantage of this three-way handshake by sending multiple SYN packets that are usually spoofed, meaning that the IP address is hidden, and this means that the target gets an overflow of SYN packets, and it's establishing a lot of these sort of like half-open connections between the abundance of bots, or the abundance of because this is a botnet representative of a lot of computers, but in this case it is single source, so it would be from one bot, but it would send a lot of packets, and because it's making so many of those connections, and the target only has so many connections that it can make, eventually the target will be overflowed and it would not be able to be usable by other users trying to access the server until that problem is fixed. So now I'll start with the demonstration of the tutorial of how to simulate a DDoS attack in Kali Linux. So first you would just go to your Kali Linux virtual machine and put in your username and password. Then you would access the terminal and get super user permission. I believe it's actually this black box over here, not this one right here. It's this black box. And you would click on that terminal tab and it should lead and open this window right here. And then in the terminal you would type sudo su in order to gain the super user permission. So step 3 is to find the IP address of the target server. So in order to do that, you would type in ifconfig onto the terminal, and you would find this IP address that's circled in red over here, and that's the IP address of your host system. Then you would type the synflood command onto the terminal. So you would type in hping3s and then your host IP address -a and then your target IP address -p 80 -- and over here should be hping3 actually. So hping3 and then so on. And then the reason why this IP address and this IP address is the same is because this IP address, your host and your target IP address, in this scenario, we're just testing the to see if you're basically making a DDoS attack on your own system, which kind of sounds like counterintuitive to do, but it's just as a sort of experiment to test it out. So in this case, the host IP address and the target IP address are the same because you're creating a DDoS attack starting it from your terminal onto your virtual machine. So that's why those two are the same. So then you can see the results if you go to Wireshark in your virtual machine, which is basically if you press go to this window or tab right here, and in a normal operations, before you even do the synflood, you're maybe like working on something like maybe like in Firefox in your virtual machine, it'll basically produce normal traffic, just some TCP here, and then like ACK requests, stuff like that. Mainly like green, gray packets go through, mix of different packets. However, once you actually do the synflood and you open Wireshark, then it would produce a lot of these black labeled packets, and you can see here that syn is labeled here, port 80 over here, and it's basically showing evidence that the syn that you were able to submit the synflood command correctly, and that you've actually demonstrated what a DDoS attack would look like. And that pretty much summarizes everything I had to say about the tutorial and about DDoS hacking in your Kali Linux system using synflooding. This tutorial was made for educational purposes only. People who try this should only do it inside of a virtual machine. I acknowledge the GenCyber program and its sponsorship by ISTS at Dartmouth and the NSA GenCyber for the creation of this presentation. Thank you very much.